Okay, we're just gonna make sure that the live stream is cooking. So Pentuple's getting real sassy about this one on the old Twitter ski. So we'll see see how well that holds up. I knew he's gonna bring a meme argument. I just know it. I know it's all gonna be memes with this ding dong dork. On the old Twitter ski. So we'll see see how well that holds up. Mike sounds pretty okay. I knew he's gonna bring a meme argument. I just know it. I know it's all gonna. Oh, wait, I gotta. We're gonna mute here, and then I'm going to pop out the chat for all of the no people. Shut up. And then we'll pop a little. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Ugh. Well, hopefully, hopefully he actually did prepare some sort of argument. It would certainly be preferable to, well, the Supreme Court decided it, so it's constitutional. Lol. Oh, let's. We're in the debate waiting room right now. Rowan, are you the person that made that funny rap battle video? I liked that. That was funny. Good job. It's actually kind of cool to talk to you. This would be with the the he who must not be named on this fucking stream, or I'm gonna lose my shit. That's the guy that I steal all my shit from. Yeah, my number one, what's the term? Like, oh, fuck. It was on the tip of my tongue. It's the meme from every week. What do you mean? Anytime I make like a vaguely like, you know, center left argument, it's like, oh, remember when Destiny said that?
We're having 2 debates tonight. One of y'all's going to go first. Probably them two, since we just argued about what exactly their topic is, and then probably y'all. You two are going to judge this debate on based off not of y'all's own bias, hopefully, but based off of what y'all think is your own merit. And about 15 minutes in or so, I will have y'all ask specific questions. And we'll get through this pretty question. Or y'all will be able to ask some questions. I'll let them go do exchanges again. I'll have y'all ask a couple more questions. Then we'll go to closings. Openings are 7 minutes. Closings are 3. I think I explained most of this in the background. So y'all are going to judge this first one. And then what you'll do to judge, you just basically at the end of it, when it's all done, you just type a message, send me who won. And then at the end, I'll tally up the votes from chat and you two. And we'll just go who won and why. I'll come and call on y'all and y'all give that. And then we'll move on to y'all's debate. And they will be the judges for there. Perfect. Any questions? Everybody got a problem? Very good. All right, good. All right, so who wants to start over here, Big JC and Pentuple? Did y'all have a preference?
I don't have a preference.
JC, do you have a preference? Nope. All right, I'm gonna do heads, Pentuple, JC, tails. Let me flip this coin here. Somebody said last week I didn't share the screen, so we'll share the screen so y'all nobody thinks there's any funny business. All right, we got
heads.
Nipples, heads, tails. So if it's heads, you get to choose. You want to go first or second.
Oh,
right?
I see.
So flip. Sorry.
Is there a cool animation, or is it just going to change the text?
Well, I don't fucking know. This is the first, because I've never done this before. I cheated all the other times. No, I'm just kidding. It actually.
You're not supposed to admit that you cheated.
I was being sarcastic.
As long as you don't admit that.
JC gets to choose. JC gets to choose who goes
Pentuple
first.
can go first.
Yeah. All right, fantastic.
All right.
That means you get the Pentuple's going to close last. All right, perfect. Okay, right. Let me just stop sharing screen. Let me get the timer. You know what? Fuck it. We'll put the timer on screen too, and y'all can share. Now, this is a new thing starting going forward, because before I was giving motions, but somebody said we'll try it, so we'll try this. You got 7 minutes to go, and go.
Oh, that's way more than I'll need for sure.
Perfect. You don't have to use all
this.
Fantastic.
All right, cool. All right. Today, I've been tasked with defending the constitutional precedents for presidential immunity. Fortunately, this work was done for me in a 6-3 Supreme Court decision where the court decided this very issue. The issue in this case mirrors the prompt for this debate, and I will read it now straight from the holding. Whether, and if so, to what extent does a former president enjoy presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office? And I want to note that neither party in this case alleged or disputed that the alleged conduct in the indictment were official acts, nor that presidents were liable and subject to prosecution for private acts. To answer this question, the court looks to the Constitution itself, specifically the executive vesting clause in Article 2, Section 1, as well as prior case law, history and tradition, and the intent of the founders in that order. The principle behind the balance of powers also plays a role in answering this question, not only in oversight between the branches, but the clear separation of their distinct powers. The executive vesting clause grants exclusive official powers to the president, and Congress cannot impede or regulate these official powers per Marbury v. Madison. This separation protects the president from influence by other branches over his official duties only. The court also looked to case law to answer this question where guiding precedent existed, most notably in Nixon v. Fitzgerald, where the court found that the president has full and complete civil immunity, again only for official acts, and the same principle was applied. If Congress cannot regulate or criminalize official duties of the president outlined in the Constitution, they cannot prosecute those official actions under any other criminal law. Of course, there is an exception and a presumption that can be defeated, and this appears in the final established precedent by this case. Lastly, the court looked to the history and tradition of the courts in our country and the founders' intent. The holding often quotes the importance of an energetic executive prepared to make difficult decisions. This is how presidents have historically handled the office of the presidency, and there is no precedent in our history for prosecuting a president for controversial actions taken within the scope of their official duties. In fact, only the opposite. For these reasons, the following standard is now established by the court and will be taught in constitutional law classes. The president must be immune from prosecution for an official act unless the government can show that applying a criminal prohibition to that act would pose no dangers of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch. This standard protects the president's abilities to carry out his executive duties without interference while still preventing a president from abusing this immunity. It does not create a new legal standard, and it fits in cleanly with prior case law and the constitutional principles that guide the court. I believe it to be good law.
All right, thanks so much. Let me get the timer reset. All right. Oh, 1 second here, and JC, go ahead.
Sorry, give me 1 second. All right. Tonight we are here to debate the question, was the Supreme Court's decision to grant criminal immunity to the president good law? One of the things I admire most about our country's ingenious legal system is that under the law, all are to be treated equally. Whether you are a homeless heroin junkie attacking a woman at a bus stop, or the president himself trying to rebel against the nation, you're still a criminal in the eyes of the court. Or that's how it used to work. With seemingly no regard for their own constitutionally defined powers and limitations, the Supreme Court decided to circumvent their constitutionally defined authority and invent for the president a new form of immunity from criminal prosecution, conveniently alleviating from our current treasonous president his criminal liability in formulating a coup and inciting an insurrection against the United States, soft amending the Constitution so that a traitor can go free. It's gross, it's unconscionable, it's indefensible, it's just bad fucking law. Put best by dissenting Justice Sotomayor, this travesty against our nation and its founders was wholly atextual, ahistorical, and unjustifiable, and it is my intention tonight to prove those things. So for its atextuality, this is like the easiest one to prove. It's literally not in the Constitution. It's not written anywheres, although as Pentuple probably knows as a lawyer, just because something isn't explicitly stated in the Constitution doesn't mean that it can't be implied or inferred. One of the problems that this runs into is that there is actually explicit immunity given in the Constitution, civil immunity for the Senate and for the House, as long as the Senate and the House are in session. So I think that that test kind of falls apart on its face. Clearly, the Founding Fathers knew how to write immunity. If they cared to give it to the president, they would have. It's also ahistorical. There's never been the idea that any man in the United States is above criminal law. Never once. There was never any doubt in the mind of past presidents that their actions couldn't get them criminally indicted. Why would Nixon have resigned? Why would Ford have needed to pardon him, if not for the presumption of a crime being committed during official acts, which is what is being contested here? Why would the Founding Fathers create an inarguable mechanism for unchecked tyranny right after they escaped that by fighting the Revolutionary War? In the 69th Federalist paper, there is literally a quotation from Alexander Hamilton saying that the president is liable to impeachment and criminal prosecution. It also draws direct distinction between the president and a king, and it also says that the president shall be have no more equal ground than the governor of New York, who had no no criminal immunity. And then there was the governors of Maryland and Delaware, who stood on higher ground, who had some form of criminal immunity. When it comes to the unjustifiability, the immunity in the first place, the immunity that was being asked for was completely beyond the scope of what the indictment even required. It completely ignores the interest of the public in having a non-criminal president in favor of this weird, like, obsessive, all throughout the majority opinion, like, prioritization of unburdening the executive branch for dubious reasons other than its efficacy, which there's constant references to Fed 70, but as far as I can tell, all that is advocating for is a single executive as opposed to a party of executives. So I'm not sure why that is the point they keep drawing on, other than it says vigorous and unburdened. So they like those words, I guess. And I think the worst part about this, it leaves open the possibility, all of these were like asked explicitly during the oral examination, for a president to sell offices, to take bribes, to order military action, even hits against their political opponents. All of this potentially is absolutely criminally immune. As it stands right now, we don't have a president anymore. So long as we continue to have national elections, they will be to elect a 4 to 8 year monarch. An individual with immense and sweeping power over our nation, its resources, and its armed forces, and with absolutely zero ways to criminally prosecute them for actions taken while in office. Conservatives truly must be ecstatic that Democrats aren't the insane monsters they pretend them to be, or else Biden would have already ordered the SEAL Team 6 strike on Mar-a-Lago way back in October and seen no criminal penalty for it. We now live in an age of supreme unchecked authority from the Oval Office, and until the court gains lucidity and realizes in horror what they've done to our country, we have a lot to fear from the office of the president.
Okay, 1 second, guys. Let me get this off screen, and we'll move into the open portion of this, where you're going to argue amongst yourselves. But before we do that, a little housekeeping. The reason why we host these debates, folks, is because I like bragging rights. We like bragging rights here on Give Us a Channel. And if you've not noticed, in the debate sign-up sheet, there is rankings and all-time record system. And the more y'all compete, the more accurate the rankings will get, because I'll be splitting them up into 3 different types of rankings using the algo. This goes on. The reason I bring up rankings now is because there is something on the line here. First, the 3 wins, including the Grand Prix earlier in the year, is going to be able to enter into what we call contenders matches to fight for the first title. Hopefully, soon we will have a title belt that'll be able to ship to the winner. They will hold while they defend their title throughout the year, then ship to the next person. It's going to be pretty cool. That being said, one of the contestants in the next debate is at the top of the rankings. Well, Pentuple and JC has only got 1 fight so far, so he's low, but he's higher than the unranked people.
Fake news.
Like Pentuple. The reason I bring this up is because one of our contestants in the second debate is fighting an unranked member, so we can debate the legitimacy of can crushing after the show. Whether or not Rowan is actually a American is hopefully have to see. He might be an all-star, but if Average Debate Enjoyer gets his 3rd win, he will be qualified for a contender match. So there's something pretty big on the line. I'm pretty excited going forward. So that's how the rankings are working. Is rolling into smart. Going forward now, turning it over to you, back to y'all's debate. Find amongst yourselves who's getting the first win this year.
Did you have anything that wasn't just like literally ripped from the like the syllabus of the majority opinion? Is that your only argument?
No, this is the holding that the court came to. This is the logic that the court used to come to this decision. I agree with it. Like, I'm not emotionally connected to this at all, actually. So to respond to some of the things that you mentioned, the court did address these, right? So if you listen to the oral arguments, you know that the reason Nixon's pardon happened is because those indictments included unofficial acts. Those were private actions, which is well known that presidents do not have immunity.
Why did Nixon
Presidents
resign?
have never had immunity for unofficial acts. Right, because he could have been prosecuted for his unofficial acts.
Okay, so one of the issues that the court brought up, and one of the things that was stated in the majority opinion.
Okay, guys, 1 second. I apologize. I'll let you continue. Thank you so much for the raid. Woo, Modi! He just finished his reset stream, it seems like. Big shout out to Modi for doing such a long reset stream. Thank you so much for the raid. Big fan. All right, go ahead.
So one of the things that was brought up in the majority opinion, and one of the issues that was cited with this decision overall, was the idea that you couldn't examine unofficial acts. You couldn't use official acts as evidence to criminally prosecute those, and you also couldn't even examine official acts in the course of investigating unofficial acts as potentially criminal. So did the Nixon, was that all good and clear with Nixon, or would there have been official acts that could have masked his immunity there that would have been implied, and therefore he wouldn't have needed a pardon anyways? If this was always how the president was assumed to function.
This never was tested. Well, he resigned so that we don't have this to be tested.
Well, yeah, but he resigned because he was a criminal, because he committed crimes. Because he illegally conspired to
in private acts, in private capacity, which is why the court addressed this.
Sure. So how was what he did private, but what Trump did wasn't?
Well, I'm not here to get into the specifics of Nixon's case. And these were all these hypotheticals, like what you're talking about, where they were admitting.
Did you come to a debate not to debate the specifics?
All of these horrible.
And you were taunting me for only bringing the Federalist Papers. I did research. You did none. This is embarrassing.
What do you mean I did no research?
Yeah, you read the syllabus and you jotted down a few notes.
Hold on.
You're arguing. Listen. You're arguing against a holding from a Supreme Court justice. Do you understand that?
No, I don't. Thank you for explaining that to me.
If you were in a constitutional law class, what I'm telling you is the answer to the exam question.
We're not in a constitutional law class.
Hold on, Jason. Let me answer.
That's fine. But I don't have to come here, and I don't care if you disagree with basic constitutional law. It's like sitting in your torts class and saying, I don't think that's assault. You can do that. I'm not emotional about it. I'm telling you the holding of the case because you wanted to debate it. You said there was no merits to it. Obviously, there's merits to it. That's why I broke down the entire holding here for you. Yes, my argument is that the holding has merit. My holding is that the holding has constitutional basis. That's what you want to debate. That's why I even had to keep the evolution of the prompt, because once you realize that there's obviously some historical argument that you can make for this, you had to debate it to whether it's good law, and then you go and read Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent, and that here we are.
So Gibbs,
but that's why
so
you still
Ketanji Brown. Wait, okay.
I understand that the court addressed the Nixon question. The court addressed the Nixon question and acknowledged that those indictments involved private acts.
Okay, go ahead, JC. Now, you don't interrupt the double because you had to get this. So go ahead.
Oh, hold on. I'm just looking up Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent that was penned for the immunity decision.
Right
because the only one that I read was the one penned by Justice Sotomayor with Justices Kagan and Jackson concurring.
Okay.
So
there's also Ketanji Brown Jackson also.
Did you publish an independent
separate
brief?
dissent. No,
Go
it's
ahead.
just another dissent.
Well,
Yeah, where?
so
Like, why are you trying to flex on the like that you don't know anything about the basic law and how it
Why are you
works, and
trying
you're
to pretend
argue on
like you
dissent
do?
against settled law?
So Gibbs, can you
Because
can I
am.
appeal to the
passed
moderator
bar
here?
exam. I passed a
Can we just
constitutional law
establish? Can we
class,
just
and I know
establish
I'm
what
talking
the
about.
what?
I'm not
Hold on,
explaining
let
the
me
whole
go,
thing to
hold
you
on,
like we're in a
hold on,
class.
hold on. Let
You're
me go,
literally
look.
the student in class telling the professor he's wrong.
Sometimes that happens,
I'm just telling
dude.
you what every
Hold on.
constitutional law
Stop,
professor
stop.
will tell you
So
is the
I have
established
to,
law.
Gibbs, I have to appeal to the moderator here. I have two questions.
All right, I'm gonna let you appeal to the moderator. All right, what is your appeal real
Yeah,
fast?
yeah.
And then I'm about to set some ground rules
Well,
here. 'cause I
so
think that
first
might
of all,
help you a little bit.
can you
Or frame it.
confirm that when we had our back and forth in the it's in your personal Discord, it's in the DCF signups channel, that the
Sure.
final
There you
prompt
go,
that
pull
we
it up.
both agreed to, that I 100% reacted, and Pentuple, I think, Smug Trump reacted.
We had hold on. We had this up at the beginning. We both talked
Is
about
this
this.
is there
okay?
a historical factual basis that provides merit for presidential immunity? So can we all remember that?
By the way,
Okay.
Thank you, Text Edgy, for the bits.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Go
yeah.
ahead.
So do we also, is Pentuple's only, is the only thing that he's going to try and do here is flex his law degree at me?
Hold on. So
That's what you asked me to do.
No, it's
hold on,
not. I asked you to have an intellectual discussion about the merits of this decision, and all you're doing is, well, this is what the Supreme Court said, lol.
Server mute. So hold on, server mute. Hold on. All right, here's what's about to happen. All right, because this is we're getting off topic. We're gonna reframe, and then we're gonna get back. Okay, cool. Let me reframe this. So we have this thing that he's got up on the wall right behind him. That's what we've agreed on topic here going forward. So now, this is once again a lawyer versus Joe thing. It's not that he's flexing the law degree so far, in my opinion. You can disagree, but you do have to let him talk about other cases that might have relevance to said Supreme Court case, because that is historical law. And I will let you have whatever other documentation, Federalist Papers, Magna Carta, whatever you want to use in order to prove
This
your
is so
point.
fucking
I don't know what you want to
embarrassing.
use. So you have to. We're arguing the legitimacy of this. He's arguing from a legal precedent. You're arguing your point. So I'm going to let y'all both go. That is my take on this, and that's what I'm going to go going forward. So that's the answer. This thing in the background, which we agreed to before the debate, is what we're going forward. Go ahead, because y'all there like 8 minutes or so. Then we're going to turn some questions over to the judges. Big JC, you go ahead and go first. Now, Pentuple, you just be silent for a moment, and then you can object to what he has to
I
say.
just think
I'm
the
you'll have
fact that
plenty of to
I just
do.
think the fact that Pentuple has a law degree and yet clearly did zero prep for this, except skimming the debate right beforehand, and is just throwing his law degree at me and hoping I'll concede. I think that's really embarrassing for him, and it's disappointing for me. I expected better.
Go ahead. Your response to that, Pentuple. Do you have
Brother,
a
you're
response?
just gaslighting me.
Well, every time I try to get into
Okay.
specifics, get into the details of this, so we can actually have a discussion, you try to
Well,
shut me
let me-
down and
let
say
me
it's
read it
irrelevant.
then.
The Supreme
Let's
Court
do it
already
then. Let's
decided.
start with
Okay,
the
I got a
topic,
question.
because the
I got a
topic.
question. I got a question. Why is Johnny Brown important to this case? Let's go start with that. Tell us that, Pentuple.
Well, she wrote the dissent. I made the point that he was going
Okay.
straight to the dissent because he wants to disagree.
So, okay, let me ask you a question then. As someone who is taking law classes, is dissent, and this is probably a question that's going to benefit JC some, is dissent, and I mentioned this beforehand,
This
is
is
dissent
really,
basically
this is hilarious. I
something
don't
that can
even
be
know
used
if
for legal
he.
precedent? I'll answer that question for myself. The answer is yes. It is something that
Only
can
as
be used.
dicta.
Okay,
right?
oh, you can go into that in a moment, but it is something that can be used as partially as a legal precedent. Why is it only dicta, and why is he wrong for trying to do this? Go ahead.
Hold on.
Well,
let
I'm
me
just
go
pointing
into
out that
the-
he's accusing me of having a personal interest when all I'm doing is treating this like any constitutional law student would. This is the holding that the Supreme Court has come to. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what I think about.
I
criminal
don't. I
immunity.
certainly
This is a
don't. I never. Well, yeah, that was the
constitutional law.
outside of the
So, hold on,
discussion.
Vicky,
I
hold on,
don't
hold on,
care,
Vicky.
but yeah, I do for the purposes
So
of the
what is-
debate.
what is-
That's
What is the okay?
Right,
that's
but
fine.
you disagree with the Supreme Court. Is what I'm saying.
What is
You're
the
not disagreeing
reasoning?
with me.
What is the reasoning behind their decision? Let's start with that, Pentuple. Go ahead. And do
Right.
that.
So I think this slide best encompasses the general constitutional principle. Marbury Madison established judicial review, which allows the court to determine whether certain laws are constitutional or not. And they have established that Congress cannot regulate or criminalize exclusive presidential powers where it impedes on their official acts. If that's the case, then you cannot apply other criminal law to presidential official acts because it is the same outcome. Whether it's an existing law or you design a new law to impede on this official act, the entire purpose is to separate the president from the threat of interference with his official duties. Now, this goes to, in part, case law, the executive power, but also where's this? The framers of the Constitution wanted an energetic executive, and this language is very, very important, and it's referenced a lot in the holding. And this quote right here from the holding is, I think, an important part. The primary purpose of the executive vesting clause is to create a unified, energetic, and independent executive branch headed by a single president. The framers of the Constitution, influenced by the weaknesses of the executive under the Articles of Confederation, where there was no strong executive, designed the clause to ensure the federal government could act decisively in executing those laws. So this idea that, like, oh, they didn't expect presidents to have the great power. This is why in the Federalist Papers, where they don't address the question of official conduct, they do describe how we don't want this person to be a king, but we are entrusting them with great power of a branch of government. So this line that we've drawn is very, very careful. And when you get to the standard established by the court on this logic, the president must be immune from prosecution for an official act. It does not end there. There is a presumption that can be defeated, and I won't read it, but it's here highlighted in blue. And if you can defeat that presumption, the president is still liable criminally. So this isn't some new world where the court's established or just
like 15 more seconds.
enshrined something new. The court found that this immunity has existed in its past. It lines up, this holding lines up with our history, whereas the opposite holding actually would alter the way that history and the future goes.
Thank you so much for saying. All right, JC, Pentuple, don't interrupt him. JC was good. I'm very proud of JC. I know that he is ready to rage. Your objections to this, Pentuple, you shut your mouth for a moment. Okay. Go ahead, JC. All your objections.
I mean, outside of the fact that there is no constitutional precedent for demanding the vigor of the executive branch in lieu of a criminal being held liable to criminal law, maybe there is actually some benefit to having a president who will hesitate before taking actions like murdering a bunch of people that would otherwise be able to be charged as crimes. Maybe we do actually want, as is very clear throughout the Federalist Papers as you read, like at least from Hamilton's perspective, that the idea of the government moving sort of slow is actually a desirable thing. That drastic change and massive action is probably not a good thing. So having mechanisms where the president hesitates before taking actions that could have drastic effect on the perception of him or of the nation because they are inherently criminal, maybe that's actually a good thing. So no, I completely reject this notion that there is some sort of like constitutional precedent for this. And Justice Sotomayor, who actually wrote the dissent, also agrees with me on this.
Hey, perfect. This sounds like perfect time while he looks for notes. Let's move on to the judges portion. Judges, if y'all wanted to know those cams, y'all are welcome to.
I need to show you. You keep saying like, oh, the Sotomayor actually wrote the dissent. Ketanji wrote a separate dissent, brother. Stop trying to like do this to yourself. Okay. It's fucking embarrassing, man.
So that, yeah, you can go into that in a moment. I'll let you use that, and you can explain what separate dissents are, because I don't know if any average person understands how the Supreme Court works.
No, I understand it. I just didn't read that one.
Not you, Jesse. I'm sure you do. I know
you
came prepared.
Sotomayor actually wrote it.
Stop talking. All right, stop talking, both of y'all. Real quick. All right, real quick, guys. Sorry. No housekeeping here. I'll let you, Pentuple, go, and I'll probably have in a moment, and you can explain all that. But let's get to the judges here. I'm gonna start with average debate Georgia, just so you can see the format, so I don't have to put you on the spot. Also, by the way, nice hair. It's long-haired people. We're better than you, and we know it. Go ahead, average debate Georgia. Go ahead and ask a question.
Okay, so I got two for JC, one for Pentuple. Kind of going at what your guys' original claims were to the other person. I'm trying to stay in task for that. You're kind of going at each other with some things that are unrelated to the original claims. Kind of trying to weave those out. For JC, Pentuple offered up some specific language and legal precedent in his original argument, and you were saying he copied and pasted it from the ruling, which it could be true, it could be used to dunk on him, but at the same time, it's a very simple argument for him to defend. And sometimes simplicity is the best way to win one of these, but I kind of want to ask you two questions related to this. So, do you see the right to privacy that was established in a very similar way that upheld Roe and Obergefell and other decisions? Do you see that as equally comparable, or could that be thrown out using the same justification to throw out this presidential immunity?
So first, I would like to apologize to Pentuple. I was incorrect. Jackson did file a separate dissenting opinion. So for me to say that only Sotomayor filed one, that was incorrect. I apologize. Second, I am not inclined to comment on anything outside the scope of the debate, and I don't really see how that separate decision has anything to do with this decision.
I'm just wondering the logic of taking things that aren't directly into the Constitution and building up a legal right that isn't necessarily textually, because you were right, it's not textually written in there, but this right to privacy was something that was incepted based on previous rulings and the constitutional writing itself from 3 different amendments. So I was wondering your thoughts.
I have no
just
specific thoughts on
incepting.
it without doing any research into it outside of the research I
Gotcha.
did for this debate on this specific issue.
Okay, so the second question then, that's a fair answer, I guess. Yeah, you're right. Second question is, do you have any direct lawsuit, case file, precedent, or anything that maybe contradicts, or any opinions on those specific cases? Besides Nixon, you guys got into Nixon, but he got into Marbury versus Madison and a few other things as well. Do you have anything to basically just give you some time to directly address those if you want
Address them in what fashion?
however you feel you need to. If you
Well,
have
I feel
anything
that the court's usage of those cases to thread together this immunity is facile. I don't think that the way that they're interpreting these cases is like stitching together, like being able to, okay, well, clearly here there was a, so hold on 1 second, let me pull up the other notes document. Control F is good.
You're saying they're cherry picking to form a narrative.
Yeah, so I
That's
actually
what I'm
compared
wondering.
this. I can in a second. I can go through when you ask Pentuple a question. If you come back around to me, I'll find it in my notes document. But I compared this earlier to my wife as whenever I'm debating with Christians or atheists for that matter, and they will cherry pick certain Bible verses to justify their argument. And I also like I very obviously that's what's going on when I made reference to Fed 70, when they're just like they just keep spamming like the opening line over and over and over and over again, like the unburdened and vigorous, unburdened and vigorous, unburdened and vigorous. But if you actually, as I said, read into that paper, the intention of that essay is more to argue for one executive as opposed to like sort of like executive group.
That's what I'm wondering. If you have some sort of legal case or
well, I'm not
law
sure.
or
So the
something that,
problem is that
shows
I
that.
don't have a case that demonstrates that presidential immunity doesn't exist because it's never been the assumption, nor should it ever be that it does exist.
Maybe not that goes that far. It just breaks his chain.
It was never
shows-
tested.
There is no
Shows that it's
chain.
cherry
There is no
picked.
chain. The chain is made of tissue paper.
That's
and
what
I
I'm
breathed
wondering.
on it and
Can
it
you
snapped.
show me
it's-
that?
What I don't
And then
understand. I'm
that's
sorry. I just don't understand what
One
you're
of the
asking
things the
for.
court talked about, one of the
just-
things that the court, I don't know if I could just jump in here or not.
If
Sorry.
you can
Go
help,
ahead.
if you
I'm
can
just
help
wondering,
explain to me
like-
what he's asking for.
Yeah, I'm just
Go
asking
ahead,
if there's
yeah.
a legal case
Come
that like
quick,
came
yeah,
in
real quick.
between those that breaks the chain of
Well,
precedent.
let
that
me
he's building.
let me ask. one
Well,
question
wait.
real quick, and
Okay,
then
wait.
I'll
I
let
understand.
Pentuple
Wait, I understand. I don't think there is a
Okay,
precedent
hold on.
being
Yeah, let
established.
Pentuple go.
There is no precedent being established
isn't.
by. There is no chain of precedent being established for presidential immunity. That would be my answer.
Okay.
Okay, before you move on to this, I want Pentuple to respond to that and what Tyler just said and explain what's different.
So-
But I have one question I want you to also answer with that, is that there seems to be some objection by the big Chasey that other cases that aren't directly part of something are part of this case, don't influence law. Like, so in your opinion, is law influenced? And you can fix my wording if you want, JC. But it appears like you're objecting to the use of certain outside cases influencing.
No. No. To be clear,
okay.
I'm not objecting to the use of
Okay, what do
outside
you-
cases. What I'm objecting to is the way that the court is attempting to use these cases to demonstrate precedent where none exists.
Okay, cool. All right, perfect. That's
So-
what I wanted to clarify. So you go ahead and explain what you want to say there. Response to what is Ian's question.
Sorry, it's really
JC.
cold in my
So
basement.
the precedent that we're looking for isn't that there's like precedent that presidents could have been charged, but there are no prosecutions of former presidents. And one of the things that the court discussed in the oral arguments is that if the court ruled the way that you're arguing they should have, presidents would immediately test the question, which is another untested constitutional law question of self-pardons. Presidents would all just immediately start pardoning themselves on the way out. We would have to answer that question as a part of our process now. But what you're trying to argue that this alters the course of history, that this is like some monumental change in constitutional law. This finding only affirms the previous experiences that we've had in constitutional law. It doesn't change what would have happened, which is what you're arguing.
Can I respond to that,
I would
Gibbs?
argue.
Can I respond to
Absolutely
that?
right.
So I don't think that it's a good argument that just because this has never happened before, that means that the decision that was made was the correct one. I also don't agree that just because it hasn't happened before, that automatically means that your assumption about how people, like, obviously that was not the
It
case.
does.
Obviously, there were plenty of people like me who didn't think that the president had full criminal immunity. And now that the Supreme Court has so graciously clarified that for us, now we're all sitting here like, well, what the fuck? We thought that no man was above the criminal law of the United States. No man should be
Sure,
above the law
because-
with some exception to, like, impeding. Like, I'm okay, obviously. I don't think that you should be able to sue the president over whatever the fuck you want, right? Because that would impede the vigor of the executive's wang or whatever it is they're so concerned about. But when it comes to criminal actions, there is absolutely a massive public interest in holding the president to account for crimes that he commits. And I'm not sure why, especially one more thing, especially if the intent was to affect private goals, not those in the public interest.
Just
Well,
housekeeping.
I-
hold on, before you hold on.
Your position is
Hold on,
the
hold on,
reason
hold on,
we
hold on,
included
hold on.
this
I think he has to do a
I'm sorry,
donut
go
shout
ahead.
out.
Oh, no, not that. But I was gonna say housekeeping is what's gonna happen. Pentemple, you respond. JC, don't say anything after, and then we're gonna go to Rowan. Then ask him a question. So, Pentemple, respond to this real quick, and we're gonna go to
I was
Rowan.
just going to say, it sounds like what you're arguing for is the reason we included this presumption that can be overruled. So it's not like we've granted this like profound immunity to the president. But what we do have as far as precedent when we're talking about, or the lack of precedent, is that presidents have never been charged criminally. But there are plenty of cases that you can go throughout history where you could suggest, obviously this is looking back, but you could suggest that presidents could have been facing criminal charges, but they never did. So this hasn't been tested. That doesn't necessarily mean that the answer to that test is that they can be prosecuted just because it was never tested. The precedents that we're looking at here is the lack of prosecutions, and that is relevant to this holding. It is a part of the constitutional decision-making process here. I know you might not like that or agree with it being a part of that process, but that's just a part of.
I've never
the
been
process
prosecuted
here.
for murder. Therefore, if I ever murder anyone, I'm not guilty of it. Okay. All right.
I got one more question.
No,
for
okay,
Pentemple.
all right. One more.
It's not a crime.
One more question. All right,
Never
I'm
been
sorry, Ron, I
prosecuted.
lied. I'm gonna have him ask one more, and then we're gonna go to you for yours.
Sorry, Rowan.
Yeah, he's
All
pretty
right.
sure this
I
guy.
just more want a clarification. So again, I'm going off your guys' initial intros as to like what the points were you're trying to prove and disprove from the other side here. So one point JC made is he's saying that the president's kind of free to do anything. He was saying that the court is going above their merit to give a corrupt president a pass, essentially. So I want to dig into that a little bit. I don't think that you've kind of refuted that enough. I want to ask, are there any other mechanisms in the Constitution to deal with a president potentially doing bad actions while it's potentially an official action besides the one you have highlighted there?
Okay, so your question is whether an official act can be prosecuted in any context?
In any way, is there any other mechanism the government has besides just arresting the president out of office, which is what this
So a lot of the hypotheticals do still bring an analysis, and the court didn't. One of the things that we should note here is that the court didn't touch on what is an official act. And you'll probably understand. Most people probably understand that the Supreme Court generally avoids answering questions that are not before the court. And in this case, neither party disputed or admitted that the alleged acts in question were official acts. So the question here was only immunity. I guess you're asking me about the scope of what is an official act in some ways.
If something is declared an official act.
If we define it as an official act,
Yes.
and it's taken by a president in their capacity as president, they are immune from prosecution unless this immunity can be, where's the language that the court uses? Unless the government can show that applying this criminal prohibition to that act would pose no danger of intrusion on their authority and function.
Do you think that's a
So
good
this
thing?
comes down to,
I'm saying
yes, I do.
besides
I think this caveat is very carefully worded.
is the
because it
president the
allows
commander-in-chief?
president to pursue legitimate. Yes.
You know where I'm going with this,
and the
right?
president is allowed. I'm making the
Can
point
the,
that
can the president
is the
order the
executive.
United States Marines to domestically bomb Chicago and destroy
Right.
it?
So this is where you have to get into the analysis of whether it was done as a presidential duty.
How
which
can you do that?
requires
How
so
can
many
you do that? He
variables
was
that you would
commanding the
have to
military.
litigate
That's an
these
official
fact
act.
patterns.
You can't investigate that.
You can argue that. You can
No,
argue
you
that.
can't. No, you
can
literally
argue
can't.
that.
It said that. It
You
said
can argue
you
it.
cannot investigate official acts to prosecute unofficial ones. You can't.
Okay. We
Okay,
come
so
back.
if it's defined as an official act by the court, right? But the court can still look into it if you
Okay,
accuse it of not being
core
an official act.
power
That's the whole
would be
point.
commanding the
court is still
military,
allowed to
correct?
look
We're
at
avoiding.
president's
We're
law.
not talking about. Well, hold on, hold on, Gibbs. This is an important point. Gibbs, this is really important.
President has like complete and full immunity is just wrong.
This is really important.
Okay.
Commanding the military.
Go ahead.
Commanding the military is a core power of the chief executive, not an official act, a core power. Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
So can he
Yes.
command the military, let's say the Air Force instead, to nuke Chicago? Is that a criminal act?
Nuke Chicago? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that's like the.
You don't think that's a criminal act? Well, according to court, you'd be correct.
No. Okay. There's no official act where the president can constitutionally nuke Chicago. So, like, your
He is the
hypothetical
commander-in-chief of the military. He is
nonsensical.
exercising his core duties as chief executive.
He's
Well, hold on.
Right,
Correct me.
but
This is the embarrassing conservative part. They have
You're
no answer to this.
suggesting that the president, you're trying to pitch this whole premise as if the president has been like released of his guardrails. There's nothing protecting there's nothing preventing the president from doing anything.
Wait, who has
This is
command over the
such a
president in the
specific
military?
scope. Yes, but what are you talking about? Are you concerned that Trump's going to nuke Chicago?
No, I'm
Like, that's
asking
what
you
the Supreme
about the
Court should be worried
boundaries
about?
of this
We
law.
do
I'm asking you
have-
about the merits of this law. It was the debate
JC,
prompt,
what's that?
idiot. Weren't you
There
paying
is an
attention?
element- there is an element of the presidency that requires you to be a good person. You have to elect good people. The person that we put in the presidency has a lot of power. What you're suggesting is putting the president in a position that they cannot make mistakes. You are completely off base constitutionally. You can laugh, but when you get to your law school and you drop out of your comma class, they'll say the same thing to you. The presidency
All
is
right,
not
guys.
a
We'll
role
just
that
hope
is
he's a really
designed
good
to
boy.
be unable to fuck
He
up.
won't do that. He's too nice.
All right, perfect. That sounds like a perfect segue into Roan. Bit of housekeeping again, because I'm a dumbass. I realized this after I said something that I peed into the back. I just posted Roan's link in chat. Guys, you know what I didn't do, because we kind of had a hodgepodge intro and started a little early. I didn't do intros.
Holy
So,
shit, dog. There's
unfortunately
no
for
way
you
you
three,
just
I
said
might
that. I'm
notice
still
you
gonna
all are
lose
on my
this
channel.
debate
But no,
too.
Ron,
That's
before
the
you ask
most.
the question,
That's
go
the
ahead, tell us
worst
who you are,
part.
what
Is
you
that
do,
Gibbs'
what
chat is
defines you, all that good
retarded,
jazz.
so I'm
And I
gonna lose this
apologize
debate
deeply. I'm sure of that.
somehow.
But I got so many
Wow.
things going on today. I skipped it. Go ahead, Ron.
Hey, no worries, man. Hey, thanks so much for having me on. Great to meet all you guys. My name is Rowan. I have a YouTube channel. It's at Rowan Reads. I make rap battles. I do comedy skits. I use a lot of deep fake technology. I deep fake voices. I deep fake faces. I've made content with J-Reg, Destiny, among a few other people. And yeah, I'm just here for the memes, man. You
So
know?
was it your fault that soy whatever the other night had the fake tweet that triggered Rob? It was your fault. You deep faked it with the eye, didn't you?
I'm not sure if I'm privy to.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
That was so embarrassing. As a side note.
Sorry. Side note.
Good
yeah, really
Lord.
Funny. Like I said, everybody knows my bias. I'm a conservative. Rob's on my side generally when I do my own shows or like go on shows and panels and shit. But that
Yeah,
was
but
something
claim
you
your
saw
bitch,
back in
dog.
Yeah, that was some
Ooh.
funny shit. And then yesterday after at the Connor meltdown, not good. Rob had an interesting past 2 days. So one time I agree with Rob, one time I didn't. So guys, I'm a fair guy. Anyway, Ron, go ahead and ask away any questions. And go check him out. I posted his link in chat.
For sure. I appreciate it. I guess I have 2 questions. I have one question for each of the contenders here, and then just kind of like an open observation I want to make. So I guess first for JC, I want to ask if you can give any, like, what is a steelman version of this concept of presidential immunity? Like, is there a less extreme version of it that you would accept? And what is the hypothetical good that would be trying to do that you think it's failing to do?
So the steelman version is what already exists. We already have a method of being able to impeach a president, to remove them from office, and then go after them for crimes committed while in office. So we already have this system. It works, okay? It worked with Nixon to the point where he resigned rather than being impeached because he was told by his house that it was going to happen. So I think that the system we already have is just fine. When it comes to the proposal by the Trump team, it feels so obnoxious to say this, but I really cannot see a steelman for giving criminal immunity genuinely to anyone in the United States. Criminal immunity is, like, again, I really, really like the U.S. Legal system. Like, personally, I admire it quite a bit. The evolution of all of these different systems kind of reaching what they have formulated as the innocent until proven guilty, the everyone is entitled to counsel. Like, there's so many cool things about the way our system is set up, but part of that is everyone is treated fairly, right? Everyone can have a lawyer. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Even if you're like everybody has seen like mugshots of you for weeks because you're some crazy serial killer, you're still going to be treated in court as if you are just as innocent as a guy who jaywalked. So I'm okay with like the idea of criminally prosecuting basically anyone so long as they actually committed a crime. And I struggle to find a way to read the Trump team's position and then the subsequent decision as anything other than like a blatant sort of biased position towards like favoring Trump.
Sure. Okay, and that's a good. That kind of leads me into my question for Pentuple, which is, with this ruling, I guess now being like the new precedent, what is an example of something that the president cannot do? Like, what would cross a line so that they can be prosecuted criminally?
So like these
anything
obvious examples, like if he committed murder, right? In a private capacity, like he can still be charged civilly and criminally for things that aren't done in his capacity as president. What the ruling here is really getting to is that the president is a branch of government, and this branch of government is separate from the judiciary and it's separate from the legislative. And the logic that prevents the legislative from passing laws that affect his official powers only, right? These are only things, and like I said, all of these crazy hypotheticals, there's a way that you can change enough variables to make anything technically an official duty, but they're very unlikely and unreasonable. But what we're talking about here is that the president needs to have the ability to carry out his duties without fear of civil liability or this, but only for his official duties. So like the hypotheticals are like, I mean, there's all sorts of hypotheticals. I mean, when we go into this case and we look back, there's all sorts of decisions made by probably every president has made at least one decision that you could argue had some criminal capacity. But the problem is that when they're acting in the capacity as president, I mean, they're in charge of the executive power. And in some sense, there's other legal arguments that go to this, but this power is exclusively the president's. So allowing the legislature to interfere with law and prosecutions of official duties is essentially sacrificing the power of this branch of government.
Sure. I mean, I guess my concern would just be that this allows because to my understanding, I mean, the whole reason that this case happened was because of the was because of Jack Smith, right, trying to sue Trump over the entire thing and the claims of stolen election.
Conversations with his attorney general and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so I guess my concern, because I am of the opinion that was an attempt to try to steal an election, and if Joe Biden had done that, I would have condemned Joe Biden as well. And I guess my concern would be that this will allow presidents to just do this in the future, because there is now no disincentive to not try to like steal an election or just like hire fake electors to like put in to cast fraudulent votes, because now you know that even if you don't get away with it, you can't be charged. So that feels kind of scary to me.
So what we're talking about here is what you're arguing comes down slightly to intent, which I'm not going to say you or I know. Like I might feel one way about Donald Trump's intent, you might feel the other. We don't really know that, but it does come down to like this knowing intent. But this principle that I was mentioning earlier that JC was laughing his head off at is that this presidency is a position where you have to put people, we are tasked with putting in a person that we're going to entrust with great power. This is not a position that you are incapable of making bad decisions, incapable of doing things like that. But within the scope of your official powers, like, I guess the hypothetical about like trying to steal the election comes down to Trump's intent, because if Trump really believes in the fraud claims, then there's a really different like legal analysis going on here. And like, for example, just in a hypothetical, like let's say one day it came out that the election was stolen. I know you don't believe that. I don't have evidence to say that, but let's say the evidence came out one day that that was the case. Would that now justify what Trump did here? So what the court's looking at with these official duties is not the president's intent, but just whether he's acting in the capacity as president.
Wait,
That's
wait,
why
I have
in
to,
my
Gibbs,
state-
I have to say something. I really,
hold on,
I'm,
hold on,
please.
stop, hold on,
Please.
because I think Rowan's, hold on, stop. You just keep write notes down, respond to all this, because I think Rowan's actually got one more question for a general question for both. But I want you to answer this, Pentuple. What if, okay, the evidence does come out as stolen. However, since Biden did it as officially in capacity as president in order to stop
That's correct.
Trump or like whatever, would Biden or I guess who was before that, Obama, like try to stop him from
By
being
the
president,
time
and he did this
that
'cause
he
thought it was a
fucking
threat
rolls
to
around me,
nation,
it's
so
not
he
gonna be
did it as
fucking
president.
relevant
Would
anymore. But
that
just to be fucking
allowable
clear,
under-
Pentuple is either not a real lawyer or he's a fucking retard. Because intent was Trump communicating with the DOJ. His action, his intention was to communicate with them. His motive was to do so to steal the election. A lawyer not knowing the difference between motive and intent is so fucking embarrassing, and he's gonna get away with it. But I'm not gonna let him. I'm not gonna let him.
And this is why I said for a long time, with Biden's pardons, this is a consequence. Whether if you, and this is obviously a pitch for people who dislike Biden and dislike the pardons, but this is the consequence of entrusting someone with a branch of government as the president who is not in line with, I guess, what you desire, is just to pitch it that way. Because I know some of the judges don't feel the same way, but the point is like, there is a task and an importance that when you put somebody in the presidency, we are entrusting them with great power. And this immunity covers them in so much as they're making decisions as the president under valid constitutional law. All these like hypotheticals, I think the court would revisit these, and I'm just saying, like, these horrible, like, brand new hypotheticals, I just don't think will, like, I don't think we have to worry that every president's going to try to pressure campaign people into like changing election results.
So,
I don't. Sorry, you can go ahead. I'm getting
Okay.
wordy, but like I just
it's fine.
like
Just wrap
this
it up.
seems to be like a fair caveat.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go to JC, and then I'm gonna let Rowan ask his overall question. So
It was pretty fucking stupid because I should have been able to nail him on it at the time. But as a lawyer, clearly you should understand the difference between motive and intent. Correct?
What are you getting at?
Donald Trump's intent was to communicate with his Department of Justice. His motive was to do so to steal the election.
In your opinion?
Sure, yeah, but
And
guess
is it
what?
opinion to-
Guess what, Pentuple? We can't even look at whether or not I'm right or you're right. We can't even investigate it anymore.
correct.
Which means that now,
correct.
like
Hold on,
Rowan
hold on,
pointed
hold on.
out, a president,
Because it's an
Democrat
official
or
act, that's correct.
Republican, has full
Just
clear
let's talk
to
about it.
steal the election in exactly the same way that Trump already tried to, except this time
Not-
we can't even investigate it.
Mm,
All right,
Yep,
real quick
exactly.
response. Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, perhaps.
Okay. All right.
Wait,
perfect.
wait,
That's
not
good.
cool.
I
Wait,
think the
what?
Supreme
Perhaps?
Court
You're just
holding
okay
for
with that?
Hold on,
Dude,
hold on.
I'm not here to
Jesus
listen
Christ,
to
this
every
is
time you
embarrassing,
freak out.
but not
if you
for
wanna
me.
read the holding. This is
Hold on,
Supreme
stop,
Court.
stop,
This is,
stop,
I'm
stop.
giving you the holding.
All right, both of y'all
Pretty much.
stop. Okay, go ahead. We're gonna go to Rowan. Go ahead. I know you had an overall question.
Oh
And then
no,
I'll
I'm
just-
sorry. The last thing that I asked was kind of the overall question. I mean,
perfect.
just my thing about like the concern of like, now does this allow any president in the future to try on their way out to say, oh, it was stolen, oh, and I have my own board of electors. who
It
can
sure
cast
does,
votes
but
to-
Pentuple doesn't care.
No,
know,
no, perfect.
So
Okay,
that
so-
was-
In
okay, hold on,
theory-
stop. All right, perfect. This is perfect timing because I'm gonna do. We're getting close to wrap this up, so we need to move the other one because I have.
Yes,
I'm so glad y'all came
finally.
early because I mean we have whatever. We are getting close to time on this, so I'm gonna give y'all a little time to object to each other, and then we'll go to closings. Go ahead, fight amongst yourselves. But yeah, so we'll
Fight
stop
with
right here in about
what?
5-6 minutes. So we do
The only one
closings.
he's arguing
Well, I'll
against at
just-
this point is
Oh,
himself.
one last thing. I'm sorry. Judges, go ahead and start
I've
thinking
argued
now.
on behalf of the holding.
You
argued
You
Hold on,
read
wait,
the
wait,
holding
wait,
at
wait,
me
wait,
and
wait,
expected that to be your
One
argument. Good job.
wait.
Good work.
Wait, 1 second. All right, 1 second. Last thing.
You get a
Last
C
thing, real
minus.
quick. Just server-wise, this is just a housekeeping thing. Judges, at the end here, send me in private who you think won, and I'll come call on y'all who won. Chat when I post the poll after they do
Yeah, see,
closing.
this is where it's going to be really,
Go
really
ahead
sad.
and
and
vote.
I'm
My
going
chat
to lose
does lean,
somehow because Pentuple
pretty
the conservative.
mid. It's
Here
like
we go.
split pretty heavily down the middle. But contestants, I advise y'all to vote yourselves. Y'all are gonna get 5 minutes to like rebuttal each other for so, and then we'll go from there. What else? Anything else before I turn y'all over to start yelling at each other because I can tell you already start screaming. Nope, that's it. Okay, go ahead. And 1 second, unmuted, fight.
I'm building a gray knight.
Well,
he didn't come to debate. He just came
I'll
to read
show-
at me.
So No, I came with an understanding of the holding. That's
So
what
did
came.
I, but I
this
came
is
to
what you wanted
discuss it,
debate.
not
This
just
is
to
the
read at
evolution of
you.
the prompt. You chose all three of these prompts. I came after reading the holding. I went through the oral arguments. I feel like I have a good understanding of why the court held that presidents have immunity with the presumption that can be defeated. I think it makes sense. I'm not here to create a new novel legal theory for you. I'm here to explain what is now being taught in constitutional law classes. I think it makes sense. I can follow the logic. The court has the authority to declare laws unconstitutional if they infringe on the president's official duties. It only makes sense that you cannot apply any law to official duties in that case. If it would be unconstitutional for them to pass that law, it would be unconstitutional for them to enforce the law in that capacity. So I'm just like, you're not arguing with me. I'm just explaining the holding, my understanding of the holding. Any shortcomings that I'm having, I didn't argue this in front of the Supreme Court. I read this for a day. This is my basic understanding of the logic and why I think it's good law. I think that the caveat, unless the government can show that applying the criminal prohibition to that act would pose no danger of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch, serves a very important purpose. I don't want criminal presidents. This doesn't set a new standard. Presidents have generally treated their official duties as immune, and that's not because of the lack of prosecution, but because there had never even been, well, no, it's because of the lack of prosecution. Like when Bush took these actions that you could argue were criminal, or Obama took these arguments that you were going to argue were criminal, there had been no precedent for charging presidents. So this idea that it's going to like, oh, it's a complete like rejection of history is not an argument that I follow. And I'll also leave it at this for the opening. I do believe that the founders intended for the presidency to have quite great power. And that's why they distinguished in the Federalist Papers that this is not a king. This person is still liable as a private citizen during their presidency. But we do have to establish that they have quite great power as the president. And it's not great if you put somebody in there that you don't like or that doesn't have your principles. But ultimately, when the president is acting under their official capacity, they have to have this immunity. Otherwise, you're sacrificing the power of that branch to the other two branches.
Fantastic. All right, JC, any rebuttal to that before we go to
No, I'm
closings?
done with him. I think
All right,
I think I'm good.
Well, so who went? So I guess
Yeah, I'll go first with
who
closing.
wins
If I win,
All
yeah.
right, perfect. Go ahead. So once again, judges after closing, send me who you think won, and then I'll ask you why at the end. Chat after closings, I'll put the poll up to see who won, and then we'll go ahead and get the next one started. Go ahead, JC, give us a closing. You got 3 minutes. Let me put the timer up for you.
You better pull it
that
up
was
so I
my
know you're
closing,
not
right?
lying, cheating.
Oh, that was your
you
closing?
lying cheater.
Oh, so already did his closing. So, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Pentuple
so
already
now
did his
Sean-
closing?
Well, I guess
Oh.
that's his closing.
That was a
Oh,
closing.
okay.
Okay, well, that
Can I
was
still-
short, but it's
Can I still
perfect.
have a closing?
Yeah, you absolutely get your closing. You got 3 minutes. I'm sharing it. I'll restart it. Apologize. It says 2:58. I'll restart it. And go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know. I wish I could say I was surprised. I'm not. But I can say that I'm really disappointed. I did a lot of reading and a lot of research. I read what was it? Fed 1, 2, 9, 69, 70, and 77. I read the entire majority opinion. I read the dissenting opinion that was affixed to the PDF. Obviously, I didn't get through everything, as Pentuple pointed out. There are other ones published, so I am going to go back and read those. I read so much shit for this, and I came to have like a really good discussion with an actual lawyer about the merits of a law, the merits of a decision made by the Supreme Court. And he is so one-dimensionally brained that he will literally just say, well, I came to explain, not debate. And then just read the majority opinion at me. He didn't answer any of my hypotheticals about the military because he can't, obviously. He didn't rebut anything I said because he can't, obviously, other than to just repeat things he's already said over and over again. That's how fucking stupid this decision is. Even an actual lawyer, somehow an actual lawyer, like I said, University of American Samoa degree looking real nice on the shelf back there, even a lawyer can't defend this bullshit. I mean, it's just, again, I return to the last example that we were discussing, where Pentuple just straight up said that he is fine if a president attempts to steal the election in the same way that Donald Trump did, and if they are not able to be held criminally liable. And that includes Democrats. So It's nice to know that despite some of our allegiance to the law, that there are still some lawyers who try to embody the rogue of Saul Goodman in real life by just not understanding how law works at all and hoping to pass themselves off with a little bit of grift and not a lot of research.
That was the most emotional closing I've
I am
ever heard in
crying
my
over
life.
here. I'm
I don't think you
sobbing, dude.
mentioned
Wham,
one
wham,
legal
boo-hoo.
concept when my
One
closing
second,
was
You already had a closing
literally-
statement, moderator.
You're gaslighting me.
Moderator,
Like,
you already
why
had a
are you
closing
saying
statement.
I came here with no.
By the way, guys, I knew that, Rowan. I hope you understand that I knew this was going to be like this between these two. I'm maybe thinking y'all's won't be as so, fundamentally. They want to kill each other on GTA as whatever. But I might be wrong. Maybe you hate him. I don't know. So you don't feel obligated to just want to be stabbed with him. But also on that note, guys, the poll is up my chat. If y'all want to go hi everybody go vote. So we got for about 5 minutes, and we're gonna switch over. Judges, send me who y'all think won. I'm gonna unmute these boys.
Somehow I lose to Pentuple. I know it's coming. Even Tyler's gonna vote for Pentuple. Rowan's gonna vote for me, and the audience is gonna vote for Pentuple because he's a conservative. There we go. I called it. Boom.
That fucking beeper.
You didn't unmute JC.
Oh, I did unmute him.
Oh, he might have muted himself.
Yeah, I'm muted.
Yeah.
But now I'm unmuted. Yeah, sorry, Rowan. I hate Pentuple. No, I don't.
You and non-fun. I get
I
along
don't
with
hate you,
everyone.
Pentuple. I just don't think you're very smart. What about non-fun?
You're all unique. You guys both don't like him. You're both all unique and
well, that's because he's not really smart, and he says
unique.
really dumb things. I'd like him if he said smart things and wasn't dumb.
Even a broken clock's right twice a day. You could probably
yeah,
get some
but like
information
broken
out
clocks
of
are
it
still
you wouldn't
fucking
out of other
broken,
people.
dog. They're wrong all the other times.
Sure, but like you can still get some. He's got a degree.
You were bitching about logical fallacies. I'm gonna come up with a new one called the broken clock fallacy, where just saying that doesn't get you out of an argument anymore.
I'm just giving you a reason to maybe just be, treat everybody nicely.
I can, like, vibe with Pentuple. I just think
information.
that his political views and legal opinions are horrendously fucking stupid. But like he probably thinks the same for me. So like I mean, there's no hard feelings there, at least not from me.
My constitutional views will get me through a law school exam, and yours won't. So.
Well, I mean, obviously they did, but hey, if Jimmy can get a degree, then anybody can, right?
I just don't know why you're gaslighting me.
I'm not gaslighting you. You have a legal degree, correct? I don't think it was literally from the University of American Samoa. That was a joke. Did you not get it?
Like a 3.
I know Tyler got it last time I made it.
No, you're fine. It's funny because it's like, well, I went to a school that might as well be like that, so it's fine. But I prepped, man.
I also got 2 doctorates from a school like
that. In my closing, I said you did a little bit of research. I just said you didn't do very much.
I mean, I read the relevant research.
Well, good job. C-.
Yeah.
Let's see how the poll's going. I have the judges' results. It's going good. It's going good.
Gonna start with critiques of both and whatnot.
No.
I don't need your critiques, Tyler. Get out of here. I know your critiques already, boy.
I watched iCal and I tried to take notes on how he broke down the debate and emulate it in that way. That guy is like, I want to learn everything he knows.
I think that he's really good for academic debate, but it doesn't hold up to the online medium every single time.
I actually agree with that statement. And that's part of the reason why I've created this, is to have rankings and bragging rights and whatnot. And I think there is this special mix for online debate poll where it is WWE-esque and formal. Like this is maybe the closest we come to where it's been like, I don't know,
grudge match. I guess.
Grudge matchy Mimi. But I would love, like, for example, to have someone like Modi come on a stream and like debate somebody else that's like a debate.
Bring that British dude back on. I'll yell at him.
Yeah. Okay. We will find y'all a topic.
We need to get a topic for me and him, Gibbs.
Sure, I'll find something. But my point is that like you can win a debate by having the crowd, by like wooing the judges if you like play to the judges. I think there's a lot of different kinds of ways to win. Sorry, guys, I'm having some technical difficulties.
Mine is by being really loud and stupid.
But they can hear us.
Shit.
Yeah. So I like that's really kind of what I'm trying to bring to here is like I think something that encapsulates online debating as best we can in a competitive format. You know, like I'm not trying to get judges that are not like, you know, if one judge is one side or like in a competition like this, like okay, everyone's got biases. But you know, if we're having the competitors judge each other the way I see it, hey, you know, they're probably going to want to try to be as fair as possible because they're going to compete next. And then when I have judges that are not from here, unless I do a gimmick like have e-girls on that day, I have, you know, I try to have like people of like varying beliefs. Like I'll usually have like Skylar's been a judge for. She's like a real young. I think she's left. I actually don't know. And then I'll have like Pentuple or something, right? And he's like a MAGA guy. And then or this one we got Rowan, we got Average Debate. Well, I guess that doesn't count because they're competitors. Or like other ones, I'll try to have like I had Chai. She's like a goth e-girl conservative, and then we had an ultra lefty as the other judge. So I try to make it balanced as we can. Looks like the polling has just ended. Pentuple, damn, this is the most dominant chat vote we've had so far. This is 15-3 a chat, so 83% of the vote. Let's go to Rowan and who he thought won.
Wait, who won the chat vote?
Pentuple won 15-3.
I called that.
Well, I don't know why you called that. Lefties have won.
I have no idea why Pentuple won the chat vote, but I know that I won't win it, so.
Well, hold on. You say that, and then we've had multiple lefties win the chat vote over the conservatives.
Yeah, but if we point to the
was...
historical precedent of my chat votes on this channel, I have never won it, so.
I won the chat vote over the libertarian.
However, let's go to the judges because chat vote doesn't always matter. Rowan, who do you think won?
Okay, so I say who I think won, and then I explain why.
Yeah, say who you think won. Could give critiques or whatever.
Okay, you know, this was a hard one to rake, because these guys, they're so civil, charming, handsome young gentlemen. But in the end, I'm going to have to say that I think that JC won purely because I'm having a hard time following the legal precedent and the chain of cases that justifies this choice. And so I just default to, I think the guy won that makes the case that I think makes the most sense, because I find this new precedent kind of scary, but I thought that they both, presented themselves, fairly well.
I already called one of them, so now Tyler is
so
going
much.
to give lip service to
All right,
me and then give it to
Tyler,
Pentuple
what
in
your
the
thoughts?
end
Who won?
because he's the
And
most accurate
decided
one.
after your roll, please. Since you're going to be the deciding factor, this is 1-1, and then who won and why?
I'm going to do the why first, then. How about?
Sure, if you want to give us the why.
All right,
makes sense, bitch. By the time you're done explaining the why, we're going to know who won.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So I want to start out with, we didn't see a winner. We saw who didn't lose. So first I want to get into the debate. We got
playing not to lose is a good strategy sometimes.
Yeah, I want to start with JC first here. JC, I will say a significantly better job than the last time I watched you debate. You used aggression.
Speak for yourself.
I am actually watching your aggression at the right moments and then toning down at the right moments. I'm like, I was taking notes because I'm bad at that. I'm too nice to people. I feel like you did much better using the aggression at honed moments when you feel like you had a good point. I think the big thing here was you guys both went into this with your introductions doing most of the heavy lifting, and a lot of the disputing that went on during, there wasn't much substance to that, unfortunately. And what we saw from the heavy lifting is JC just made more claims that he had to back up. The SCOTUS power grab to excuse Trump, never heard anything about that after the
I literally
introduction.
called it. I said he's going to pay lip service to me, and then he's going to give it to Pentuple because somehow
legal
Pentuple
precedent,
is more
you can show me
factually
one
accurate.
single case that you can show me that refutes this chain of command.
He's going to use the same. This is why
in his
you
argument,
the
and
other
you
guy.
couldn't. So like
Using
it
the same,
just
like, bullshit
based on the debate
reasoning.
alone, I feel like you didn't successfully
That's awesome that he
refute.
thinks
And you were right. He was going with a very simplistic argument, making one claim and hammering into that, which gives you one argument to refute, but it makes it a harder argument to refute because he's so strong on it. I feel like he was just never challenged on his chain of command. Pentuple, on the other hand, I feel like, again, your intro did a lot of heavy lifting because JC made a lot of good points in the debate that you didn't refute that well. I even gave you the flat-out opening and asked you a very easy softball question, like, can you give me other government actions that would go in and into effect if the president tried to do something that wasn't above board, like bomb Chicago? The president doesn't have authority to do that. He doesn't have authority to declare war on his own. That's Congress. Hold on. So what that would do, that would bounce to the courts. And this was your opportunity to say, well, the courts would take a view of that. And they'd say that's unconstitutional. You can't do that. Or they could impeach him. No, you didn't. You didn't say they could impeach him. You didn't say they could censure him. You didn't say that they could do there's all sorts of mechanisms to punish and withhold power from the president. You could have talked about how Congress can withhold the purse of the president and just delay funding if he does anything too egregious. All sorts of things Congress has control over to impede the acts of the president that you just never got into. So you let him run wild with that narrative that Trump was being unchecked because of this ruling, and I feel like you could have hammered into that more. But you kept very concise with your main argument, and I feel like that wasn't refuted. So I got to give it to Pentuple because
That
his
is
one
insane.
point was not refuted. He needed a case. He needed one court case. That's all you needed. You could have done.
So
this.
Gibbs, if you want, this might be a funny little advert for your, you know,
Did
your
you say
little
you won?
debate,
Did you say
your
you
little
won
debate
that?
thingy or whatever.
Pentuple-
You can go
Hold on,
back on
JC,
my
hold on.
stream. I muted all of this, and I gave exact predictions, not only for how everybody would vote, but why Tyler would claim to vote the way that he did. So this is
Hey, wait, that's good. Wait, so he voted. So we have a 2-1 chat vote here. It looks like, and Tyler voted 2-1 in favor of Pentuple.
yeah.
So,
this
Pentuple's got
is
first
a
win.
joke. I'm not
Jason,
doing
you
this.
I was
Yeah.
not nice to Pentuple in that review.
That,
No, you
yeah,
weren't, but
that's
you-
awesome.
But hey,
Thank you, Kanye.
you know,
Very cool.
now you two get to judge these two.
So,
So,
this
you know,
is-
you
yeah,
hold grudges.
but I'm going to judge Tyler fairly, and I'm never going to
I
do
mean,
this
maybe
again.
I don't know.
I'm done with
Hey,
this.
like these are factors
This is,
to consider
I'll come back for the
when it comes to
Thursday
these chats.
panels, but
Maybe
this
politics might
championship
help
thing
you in
is
the
like
future
a
if you're trying to
joke.
get into
This
I
chat
don't know,
is
maybe
never
you
going
could
to. I
donate
bet if I
somebody's channel
go into
for
his
50 bucks
chat, it's
if you
all
want them
like
to win. I don't know.
raging against me.
Either way, like bribing all these things, I'm okay with it.
This
And
is
so,
absolutely insane.
all right, looks like Pentuple's moving on to 1-0. Jason.
Fuck me, dude. I'm done. Where is Admiral Gibbs? Hey, Gibbs. Wait, Gibbs. You got anything to say to your chat calling me like a moron and shit like that? Or are you just cool with that? Well, yeah, but I thought we were homies. It's just kind of weird. Shut up, bitch.
But I would encourage chat not to be mean to the competitors because it does take a lot for them to come on camera, argue this shit, and stand by a belief. That is what I will say.
I'm not concerned. I'm not
however,
concerned about that or like my feelings. I just thought it was. I don't know.
I
No,
mean,
you know
but,
what?
like, as
I
long as
withdraw
was-
it completely. Whatever. I can call me whatever.
I mean,
want.
like, you could if you're gonna call, but you call people morons too. Like,
Well, yeah, but I
mean,
call
like,
them
in the
that to
chat,
their. I call them that to their
opinions,
face in
like, I
rooms where
don't-
they can see me.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, yeah, you're more of a man than the chatters that don't come on these
Well,
panels.
yeah.
I mean, like,
It's more
but, like,
about. I thought you and I
agree,
were
but,
mates.
like,
that was. It's just weird
we-
that your
we
chat
are
hates
friends,
me.
we are
But
friends,
it's
but I
cool.
mean,
It's cool. Hey,
I'm
it's
telling-
cool.
no, no,
It's cool. I like being hated.
No, listen, I hold you.
I
to the
drink
same
those
standards as everybody else.
tears.
You and I are friends. Oh, you are my friend. My chat, but like you call people morons. I mean, you're more of a man for calling them morons to their face. My chatters, if y'all want to call people morons, you're allowed to. But I guess you have littler balls than JC.
No, my balls.
It's
You know
to
what?
his
No,
face.
my balls are
I-
microscopic, and I am sad and crying that I lost the debate to Pentuple because he is so much better than me, and the only one who's better than him is
Well, good.
Tyler.
Okay, fine, but moving on. But hold on, moving on though. As fun as this,
What is he spurting
as
on?
fun as this is. All right, hold on, calm down. Shh. As fun as this is, I am on a timetable. So we are, and I want to go whoop some fucking dating show.
All right,
people's
well,
ass
I'm done with this shit.
debate bro skills
Like I
in a
said,
little
I'm not
bit.
doing
So
this
we're switching
debate
topics.
panel
You two are
thing,
judges now.
debate
So shut your mouths till I call you on a bit.
contest bullshit anymore. I'm done with
And,
this. This is not
well,
happening
I'm sorry,
anymore.
I got sidetracked
I'm
there.
happy to be on this.
Who is
Actually, I
going
don't
first?
even know if I'm happy to be on this panel.
Rowan, are you
kinda-
choosing who's
it's
going
kinda
to go
weird.
first?
I better go back
Because
to
you're
the
coming
chat.
late.
Yeah,
Rowan,
well,
you
like
get to
that,
choose
going
by
crazy.
default.
Yeah, it might
If
be
you
a
want to
little
go first or
sidetracked, but
last.
it is kind of
And
weird to
remember,
have
the person
someone
who
who's
goes
supposed
first
to be your
gets to
fucking like
do
mate.
closing last, generally.
Guess we're not friends. It's cool.
Okay, so I wrote an opening here to preemptively rebut Tyler's arguments, but I'm realizing now that that would put most of the heavy lifting in the intros. So I'm going to shorten mine, and I guess he can still go first, and then I'll give my shortened intro, and then we can actually have the rebuttals in the back and forth.
Fantastic. But you have 7 minutes, so if you want to like give your intro and then rebuttal what he said, you're more than willing to do that. You got 7 minutes to talk. Regardless, okay. So Tyler, you're gonna go first. That means you're gonna close last. Let me pull the timer up so people don't think that Gibbs is over here pulling favorites because I don't give a shit who wins, honestly. In fact, I kind of hope that Rowan comes in and pulls a spoiler for Tyler because it would be fucking funny to me to see him not make it in the contender series yet. So let's go ahead and kick it off, Tyler.
If you've noticed from my last 2 debates, I am only debating people that I would happily smoke with, chill with, and happily lose to. So I'm cool with that, man. So I want to get into this and first preface kind of how I did last debate. I want every president that gets into office to succeed. They are all the captains of the ship. I want them all to succeed from Trump, Biden, Obama, Bush, everything. I liked Joe Biden in the 90s. I'm a 90s Democrat. I did not want him to do a bad job. There's no hate for the guy. My arguments here are purely based, they're going to be really based off of polling. I'm a big polling data guy. If anyone's ever watched my channel or listened to me debate or watched Link's election stream, I was his data guy, which is like a point of pride for me, okay? So I want to take a critical look at 3 of the top 5 issues this cycle, which were immigration or the border policy of Joe Biden, specifically around asylum. I'm going to lay off of that one just because he didn't get as much time to research it. He's here on short notice, so I want to give him that consideration. If I end up bringing up the border, it's probably because I feel like I'm flailing and I need the points because it's really a good argument. I'm also going to bring up foreign policy, specifically the handling of immigration and the Middle East. I'm sorry, Afghanistan and the Middle East in Biden's first year. And then finally, we're going to look at the economy and handling of inflation. So I'm going to use polling. I use polling on my own, and if you want to check my citations, I got a whole citation page that I sent Rowan before the debate so he could check everything out.
It feels like
anyone's welcome to it if you don't believe what I'm saying here. But what I'm saying with the polling lines up almost directly, like a week after the policy or something happened in the news cycle to affect that polling. This is how I made these conclusions. I didn't just guess. So starting with inflation, I would argue that the reason why Biden was punished for this is similar to why Trump was punished for COVID. He didn't take it seriously enough. He didn't take it seriously enough and push the political agenda. For Trump, it was putting the economy before human life. For Biden, it was putting his policy agenda and spending trillions of dollars before the fears of inflation that at the point he was denying. I would argue that his administration denying inflation, saying it was transitory, and then having to come out a year later and say that they got it wrong.
Obviously.
All the while, that whole year, they were inter-party fighting with Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema. The party was calling them traitors, saying they should leave the party. They were massive public attacks. Dozens of headlines attacking inter-party members for concerns about inflation, saying they were wrong and traitors, aiding Trump. Turns out they were right. So Biden's support dropped on the economy about 2.5 quarters into his presidency, about as much time as he initially predicted the inflation would be around. When it didn't go away, but it actually increased, that's when we saw his poll numbers drop. So jumping into, and also I should say, we do give him credit. Now there is a playbook they use. Now Trump used the COVID playbook. Fauci said it under oath that like most of what he recommended Trump do, Trump did. Biden used the playbook for inflation to reduce it. What I'm arguing is not that those actions were bad. He should be given credit for bringing it down. What I'm arguing is he waited way too long to kick that playbook in, and that year he waited allowed inflation to compound to 9% before he reacted. So that's the argument I'm making. Not that he didn't clean it up well. He did clean it up well. We just shouldn't give him that much credit for cleaning up a mess that he contributed to. That's my argument there. So the third thing I want to go to is going to be looking at where the fuck is it? Damn it, I scrolled too far and had to scroll back. Inflation. I should have done this all in talking points, man. I was like, okay, so then the border, we have the asylum issue. I'm not going to dig too deep into this unless I have to, but With the border asylum issue, we saw blatant corruption using the credible fear clause based off of a 2009 order Obama gave his DHS. It was well documented, done in studies. Trump ended. When Biden came into office in February 2021, Biden completely gutted the Trump executive orders ending this and DHS. He ran on letting in 2 million asylees immediately after taking office. He was responsible for telling them to come surge the border. So all of those people that came in, that 7 million people that ended up overflowing left-wing cities, were almost all what Biden ran on and what he did in his year one policy as well. If we get into that, I have proof for it. But again, I'm going to try to lay off that topic just because our late receiving guest didn't have time to prep for it. So just to recap real quick, 5 issues. 3 of the top 5 issues, Biden was sitting at -20 in polling based off of these 3 events under these 3 issues. Economy, he was just too late to the game. We saw 9% inflation, 25% compounding inflation. And then at the end of it, he blamed Trump. In the debate, he said Trump was the one that gave him 9% inflation. He walked into office with that, which was a flat out lie. Inflation started 3 months when he was in the office. Secondly, we have foreign policy. 7 months after after Biden was in office, the withdrawal plan where he changed plans to withdraw from Afghanistan. He changed the date. He changed specificities. He changed what airport. He changed security. He changed troop deployments. He changed all sorts of things about the plan. But then when it was botched, he completely blamed Trump and said it was Trump's timetable, not my fault, after changing almost every layer of this plan the entire way down. Finally, we have the border. And again, this was a complete unforced error. Biden ran on compassion, surging the border, bringing in millions of people, nationalizing millions of people already here illegally. This was something he ran on. This was something his party wanted. And when he started to do it, he did too fast, too much. It overflowed cities. Mayor Eric Adams talked about it. Mayor Brandon Johnson talked about it. Fucking Gavin Newsom talked about it. Mayor Bass talked about it. All these people are on record talking about this overflow of asylees to their cities, bankrupting their cities in terms of financial support for their actual citizens. So we see it happening. It's undeniable at this point. It was all enforced. And I would say that these being 3 of the top 5 issues are why Biden's presidency was a failure. You're muted.
Yeah, I see that. Sorry, I'm multitasking. Yeah, good job. I'm proud of you for not making the fucking go right up to over 7 minutes for once this time. Because if Amy
That's
literally
Scott, not me.
if Amy literally didn't have the title, but she took it from the other time. All right, go ahead. Whenever you're ready. 1, 2, 3, go. Wait, hold on.
Okay, well, first off, I just want to say thanks so much for having me on. This is my first official debate I've ever had. I've been on some casual panels before, but never like an actual debate. So this is new and exciting. So I guess I'll give some quick rebuttals to Tyler's points, and then I'll make my positive case. So he has 3 main critiques: the economy, the border, and the Afghanistan withdrawal. So I'll respond to those and then make my case at the end. This should run just at about 6.5 minutes, so bear with me. So first rebuttal, I want to agree with Tyler's point about the Afghanistan withdrawal. That could have been handled much better, but I think that's a relatively minor point doc against Biden, because in the end, we are now out of Afghanistan, something presidents have been saying that they would do for many years, but no one actually did it. 20 years we spent there, $2.3 trillion down the toilet, 2,500 of our soldiers killed and 50,000 of their civilians killed. So all I care about mainly is that we are out. Was it a messy withdrawal? Yes, we left planes and Humvees behind, and there are some Americans who were also left behind, and that sucks. But what's more important to me is that finally, after 20 years, we are just out of there. Second rebuttal, the border. I have no rebuttal. I know nothing about this issue, and I did not prepare for it. So we'll do third rebuttal, and this will be the focus of my main point as well, is the economy. Tyler asserts that Biden did not act quickly enough to recover our economy from COVID, and then the Russia-Ukraine war. He clarifies that Biden's response turned out fine, just that Biden did not enact it quickly enough, which I happen to agree with, and that he downplayed what was happening with the economy at first for his own political gain. So let's briefly look at the timeline. So COVID reaches the U.S. in January of 2020, 1 year before Biden was sworn in. Biden comes in with a very hard job to help restart the American economy and try to return to normalcy. This was going to be a very painful, very rocky process, no matter who was president at the time. And then not to mention that 1 year after he took office, Russia invaded Ukraine. And so, it was a rocky, couple of years, but Biden landed that recovery pretty well, and we returned to normalcy with a healthy economy in the second half of his presidency. He brought inflation, unemployment, and wage growth back to pretty healthy levels by mid-2023, I believe around April, May. So considering that he had to deal with restarting the economy from COVID and a war, I call that a pretty good success. Now, it's totally fair if you want to critique the first year specifically of his presidency and say that he should have acted quicker and told the Fed to raise interest rates 6 months sooner. I think that's a fair point. But also, I think that's much easier for us to say now, looking back, especially now that we know that Russia was going to invade Ukraine in the middle of this process. And additionally, there is a trade-off of raising interest rates with also encouraging growth while trying to restart the economy. And I think that the fear there was that if they raised the interest rates too fast, we're still trying to recover, and then that would actually still be a rocky path to go down. And so in the end, I think Biden navigated 2 really rough global disasters and still managed to land the ship and return us to a normal, healthy economy by 2023 with a median wage increase of about 12% when adjusted for inflation. And again, I personally would call that a resounding success. Now, how's my time? Okay, to make the positive case for Biden, I think Biden did a fantastic job on the economy in profound and lasting ways, particularly his record on labor and antitrust. Biden gave actual power to the working class and meaningfully regulated corporate power in a way no one has done since FDR. I actually started off as a big Biden hater, and then he won me over because of these things. I think broadly that Tyler's analysis kind of misses the forest for the trees, nitpicking at certain things Biden could have certainly done better without acknowledging the profound structural good that he did for the economy that I think is far more long-lasting, specifically his impact on the DOL, NLRB, FTC, and CFPB. I don't know, that's a lot of letters, but I'll dive into this. So for a brief overview, the Department of Labor, or DOL under Biden, strengthened worker classifications, making it harder for employers to avoid giving their workers health insurance and overtime pay. They cracked down on wage theft and returned almost $1 billion to workers. They strengthened OSHA to restore safety regulations that Trump repealed. And they proposed to raise the overtime pay threshold, which would make more people eligible to receive overtime pay after Trump docked it down to 35,000. They proposed to raise it back up to 55. The NLRB, or the National Labor Relations Board under Biden, updated rules that make it easier for workers to form and join unions. There are now much more punitive actions against employers caught making threats
the chat
against
last
workers for
time was
trying
like
to
a little
unionize.
bit.
If employers are found to have fired
5-4,
workers for
but
union-related reasons,
so that
the
could have been-
NLRB
that
ensured the
included
reinstatement of those jobs.
my
Those
vote.
workers
I
are
don't
now
know what that
guaranteed
means.
compensation for the time they were fired, and they now require
$400.
public readings of employees' rights during hiring. The FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, proposed a rule to ban non-compete clauses under Lena Khan, who Biden appointed to head the FTC. They developed stricter guidelines for large corporate mergers in sectors like technology, healthcare, and food. They also made a landmark case blocking NVIDIA from merging with ARM Holdings. They brought major suits against Meta, Apple, and Google, both for data privacy abuses and for antitrust purposes. These cases are still ongoing, although now with Trump in office, who is personal friends with the very